everyone, so this is a reply to a comment in a video about ChatGPT 4 becoming too powerful or something, and people were afraid of sentience or something like this. And I chimed in and I said, like, I have a PhD in AI and machine learning, and I know about this, and the problem isn't sentience, the problem is labor and like the facilitation of like there's ChatGPT is creating too much too fast for jobs to make sense to exist, and like not just any um any job that robots were doing, like machine assembling and stuff like that, like marketing, media campaigns and like everything is just it's like a bunch of jobs are just like gonna disappear overnight if this goes through. And people come up with the concept of sentience, and machine learning doesn't do that. What machine learning does is it gathers data and then it just learns how to respond to that data, and it just happens to be very well educated guesses. Basically, what happens when people see it is they confuse it for sentient because the training data was made by sentient creatures, by us, by humans. But all the machine is doing is akin to a parrot. So the machine is never going to learn something new unless you give it that content. The machine is never going to have feelings or any kind of sentience or any kind of independent thought unless you give it a prompt. Especially GPT. GPT is based on a prompt and response base. So basically, it's incredibly easy to combat. Like basically, you can have the ChatGPT server and have an API to access it, and if you don't like what's happening with that API, you just shut down the connection and that's it. Like AI is not a problem that we have to worry about in this kind of like movie apocalyptic sense. Like there's the language models are advancing really fast, but look at the visual models. The visual models can barely distinguish between a dog and a mop, or like a bagel and a cat, or like ice cream and a cat, or something like that. Like the models are not actually seeing, the models are not actually thinking, they're just parroting, and they're detecting patterns in the data. So what you give an AI to learn is basically you have all this data, and instead of copy pasting it, you kind of learn the patterns so that you can find a point in this is hard to explain to in layman terms, but basically imagine everything in a document, say a web page or whatever, like everything in a document can be abstracted in a multidimensional space, and that is something that we cannot comprehend in our brains by imagination, but say we can imagine 3 dimensions, because that's what we see. Just add more dimensions and dimensions and dimensions, and each dimension we don't have to know what it means, it just helps the machine make a point in space, and that point in space, you just add something that's kind of close to the point in space, and it generates something else, and then those dimensions get translated into actual text. So basically it's doing something that's close, something that resembles, and that is all that language models are. It's not something that's giving thought, it's literally just math producing text. It's math producing text. There's no sentience, there's no powerful mind or brain or something. That doesn't happen yet. Like there's years and years to come before that is even a possibility that we can begin to imagine. And by then, like there's a bunch of different problems that we're dealing right now. We're dealing with political aspects of the world. We're dealing with a bunch of stuff that we don't have to worry about AI in that way, like in a movie way, just yet. What we do have to worry about, though, is the political aspect of AI. What happens? ChatGPT was created and educated on negative patterns, so that it doesn't parrot basically abusive text, right? Like abusive language, So it doesn't parrot racism, so it doesn't parrot homophobia, transphobia, or whatever, what have you, in order to... Oh my god, it got cut off. Okay, again. Uh, so it was trained on the negative aspects of abusive text, of homophobia, of racism, or all of this negative shit that's on the internet by sending those texts to Africans working slave labor salaries to try to classify if the text is positive or negative. Basically, hours upon hours every day dealing with reading such awful things, to the point where finally the model was trained. All these people were basically poor and traumatized, and nobody gave them like a therapist or anything, so now they're just traumatized, and then they were fired because like, we don't need you anymore, we trained the model. So yeah, way unethical. Like ChatGPT, you shouldn't use it. If you can avoid to use it, but companies don't care about that shit. I work for a company that makes me use that kind of stuff, but I have bills to pay. I have to pay rent. I don't want to do that. And without getting too much into why I still work like this, it's basically immigrant reasons. Like I have to work in engineering. Like it just has to be that way. Anyways, so what's happening is that it was trained awfully, unethically, and then the way that we use it, the way that companies would use it, is they would rapidly notice that, like, hey, we have a bunch of employees, but this machine can do it better and faster. Let's just fire them, right? And then what's happening with the ChatGPT answers is that they're kind of good, but they're only as good as the data that they were trained on. So if we make this happen, if companies get greedy and fire everyone and start generating stuff with this, one, there's not gonna be like a board team of humans verifying that the model did the things right. Like, that's not gonna be a job. The big companies are gonna get greedy and they're gonna be like, well, like, we can just trust it, right? It's fine. And it's not gonna be fine. The models can fail. So what's happening is we as consumers, we're gonna get a bunch of weird shit generated by AI, and we're just gonna be like, why is this a thing? The ethics of that is just awful, and then nobody's gonna have a job, and like, the companies are gonna be greedy. Well, it's not profitable for us to hire, so there's not gonna be any more postings for jobs, and the government's gonna be like, hey, why is nobody hiring? Like, we need to incentivize the economy or whatever. And just what's happening right now, like, nobody wants to work, blah blah blah. What's happening with service industry, with the minimum wage and everything, that's gonna happen with other jobs as well. The same fucking thing. And what's happening when everything is done by AI, when everything is done by machines, when everything is done by, I don't know, robots. Capitalism doesn't work in the way that when we designed these things, we were like, okay, let's reduce work for us so we can chill and, I don't know, go to the beach and drink like a fucking coconut. That's not gonna happen. Capitalism is gonna keep trying to exploit us, and we're gonna be like, well, there's no work. What do you want us to do? And then people are gonna go homeless, and then people are gonna go to prison, and then those people in prison are gonna do slave labor. That's a problem with AI. Political issues. It's not that it's gonna gain sentience. AI is not gonna gain sentience. We're just gonna get fucked. That's what's gonna happen. And I say we because even engineers are fucking scared. Like, I'm an AI expert, and companies are not hiring me because they don't need engineers anymore, or they think they don't need engineers anymore. Because, yeah, like, why would you do that when there's machines doing all the work for you? So yeah, that's a problem. Sentience, decades away, maybe, like, it's not even considerable right now. Forget about that. Think about the political issues. Bye. I have a PhD in AI, and I'm also, so well, one,